Welcome to Tech Tuesday. Today we're going to be talking about the Valve Index and the Vive Cosmos. Boom, you see that? Two powerful headsets, one victor. Who's going to win? It's the Valve Index. Woo! But why? And most importantly, can it change? So we're going to be putting them to the test in Blade and Sorcery. So we're going to try fighting, we're going to try climbing, and just talk about tracking as a whole for both of these two headsets. So first, we're going to just go right into the Vive Cosmos. So in the Vive Cosmos, you have one button controls your index finger and the other one controls, your other grabby fingers with these fingers. So if that button, you do all kinds of stuff. You can throw stuff, you can grab stuff, you can swing axes, you can shoot bow and arrow. So now we're just going to do some climbing. And it feels just fine, as you expect in VR. Nothing too wild there. And it works for the most part. But there are issues. Like, for example, I'm looking up here and there, so I have one hand on camera. And so the other one, it can sometimes just lose tracking. Now, there was some issues where, like, my hand would be... Let me just put the controller for representation. So my hand would be here in the virtual space. But in reality, my hand would be... It would be down here. So virtual hand, real hand. But it would quickly fix it, but it was still an issue. Steam VR is typically how I handle all my VR games. But the Vive Cosmos introduced this new software, introduced a new interface that you have to deal with. So since I'm playing in Steam VR, I have to use Steam VR's interface. But you also have to download the Viveport console. I have two consoles up, one for Steam VR and one for Vive console, and it just kind of like clutters up the screen. I don't feel like there's a real reason for it. Bow and arrows work okay. Now, if you pull the bow back too far, this hand will have some issues with tracking. Won't always happen, but when it does happen, it's super annoying. So I updated the Vive Cosmos this morning. I redid it, and thrusting worked just as well as it did in the Index. Obviously, grabbing doesn't feel as good as it does with the Index controllers, but hey, bow and arrows, I retried those too, but they still had the same issues. So bow and arrows not really too fun to shoot because when you reach behind your back, it's just problematic. One-handed weapons worked like you expect them to. Throwing stuff, no issues there. And overall, it wasn't that bad. But the issue isn't the Vive Cosmos being junk. The issue is the Index is a lot better. So now let's talk about the Index and how it handles everything. If you're not familiar with the Index controllers, these are the knuckles, and they work fantastic. All we had to do, but we did 3D print this little bit here. All it does is make the girth a little bigger on it. So you put your 3 fingers on here, and then this finger controls your, your index finger, and then you get your thumb here. Now, you don't even need, in Blade and Sorcery, other than to start the match or grab or to select new weapons in the book or whatever, you don't even need to use any other button on here other than the analog stick to move. You just have to grab. The whole game is just grabbing stuff. So this works really well for your 3 fingers. You just grab, and it feels great. You just grab a weapon and you sling it, and you just let go of it. But you do have to change some settings in your settings to make it work properly, because usually when you grab a weapon in Blade and Sorcery, you grab it and you can let go and you're still using it, which feels weird because you're grabbing something but your hand is open. So then you have to grab it again to throw it. But you can change those settings in your settings, so be sure to change them. But climbing felt great. There was no issue in tracking because their base stations were tracking it. The headset wasn't doing anything other than just, getting my head position. And it worked fantastic. I had no issues. When I gripped with this, it gripped in the game. And the other hand easily came into view and handled the rest. Fighting an Index was just as good as the climbing. It worked flawlessly. There was no issues there. I grabbed something with my hands and just swung it around. Bow and arrows, no issues. Thrusting in the game was fantastic. There wasn't any issues. The base stations captured it perfectly. If I thrusted, one-handed weapons, they work just as well. The one-handed weapons, Vive Cosmos and the Index, they both handled it fine. As long as you weren't like taking it behind your back, the Vive Cosmos handled it fine. Valve Index would have handled either of those fine because it's all handled by the base stations rather than the Cosmos. The Cosmos is $700 and the Index is $999. So for $1,000, you get 2 base stations, you get the controllers, the knuckles, these fun controllers here, and you get the headset. Cosmos can only handle these big bulky controllers. So if you don't like these controllers, you're not gonna like the Cosmos. These controllers are large. They got a trigger here for your index finger. But I think you should save up for the Valve Cosmos Index. Plus, not to mention, right now you get Half-Life Alyx free. That's pretty good if you ask me, because that's a full-length VR game, and there's not a lot of those. So we need to support it. Vive Index does 120 hertz. The Cosmos does 90 hertz. That's another thing. If you like your hertz, then Vive Index. Maybe whenever the face tracking comes out, all of that will change. But not yet. Not yet. Just hold on. Not to mention the Cosmos only works with its controllers. It does not work with the Index. So don't think you can go cheap and get this and then get the Index controllers. That do not work. These only work with this. The wands are fine. These do beat the wands. I like this better than the wands. So if you want a working VR, Cosmos, if you want great VR, get the Index or the Pro. But I don't think the Pro doesn't come with Index controllers. So if you want the Index controllers, you gotta change it up. Also, I think the Pro is more expensive. And so that's it. That's all I really have to say about these 2 VR headsets. It was a pretty easy matchup. So I guess it wasn't really a matchup, more as just a comparison between these 2. But don't get me wrong. I do think 2020 is going to be a good time for the Cosmos. Hopefully it makes it worth it, because I know a lot of people did buy the Cosmos and they weren't able to return it. So if you were one of the unlucky buyers of the Cosmos when it released, let's hope you get the bang for your buck in 2020. And if you got the Index, then I hope you have fun playing Half-Life Alyx. I'm Adrian, and I'll holler at you later. Meow.